All right, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly development call live stream update. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Live. BrainDrive. YouTube should do a better job with this because it's very difficult
If you're
to
recording, it shouldn't have sound.
make this happen. Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, we do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time to update on our development progress from the previous week and plan out the coming week. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the technical operations side here at BrainDrive.
So, BrainDrive, for anyone who is new to the call, is a user-owned AI system that is built with helping you define and reach your goals as our main value proposition. Everything you see here is running locally on my computer. We have a variety of different models that you can run that basically turn the AI from something that you have to depend on and are locked into to something that is more like a utility, electricity that you can switch through. So we have a BrainDrive model, which we pick the best model and optimize that for the best combination of cost and performance that you can just add credits and go. We have Open Router, which offers over 400 cloud-based AI models. And then if your computer is powerful enough, we have Olama, which allows you to run models directly on your computer. Once you've downloaded those models, you don't even need an internet connection. And these are free open source models. So you can run your BrainDrive completely and 100% privately and for free. So, how we work around defining and reaching your goals is we have the life areas that we believe you need to have a great life. If you're doing great in your career, you have great relationships, you're in shape, and your finances are in order, it's going to be hard to have a bad life. And this also introduces you to what we feel is the best way to work with AI, which is to up because I was switching the models around there, which is to interview you, to align around what your goals are, to create a plan for those goals, for reaching those goals, and then to come back and continuously work with your AI to update how are my goals going, how am I executing on my plan, basically like having a team of experts working with you across all areas of your life, including any new project that you want to create, whether that be something in your personal life or in your professional life. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Dave to update us on the development progress from last week.
Well, if you were sticking around last week, we introduced the separation of channels from the actual main channel, which is our release, to the having a dev or a staging channel as well. And this is the first week moving into that, so I had to separate the scripts that I normally run on a Monday for the main channel to push something. Well, now we're pushing into the dev first, and this is the first week of that. So we have nothing for the main, but next week we should have both. And the idea is that instead of, and I know everybody who's done software or even used software experienced this, somebody releases a new feature and it either A, doesn't work as the developers or the owners of it intended, or B, they broke something else in doing so. Our focus is try to give you the best experience. So with that, we're going to have that dev channel so that we will release something first there. Anybody can check it out in if you have a dev copy, of course, or we can continue to test it. But then this week, Dave can see it, not just developers. We can play with it a little more. We can run our test harness against it so that because if we change one thing, it might affect something else throughout the entire system. And this will allow us to quickly have time just to test, thoroughly go through it. If we find something we don't like, we can correct it without everybody being experiencing the headache and the hardships of that. And that's the ultimate goal right there. Because we want everybody, doesn't matter your skill level, to be able to use the software and not have am I doing something wrong or is this software? So we're just taking an extra step to make that, I guess, a little better. So let's go into sharing. There we go. That should be to monitors. Where? Let's go. Excuse me a minute. There we go. We'll just do that. Oh, that shared my brain drive, didn't it?
Yep.
Okay, that's all it shared. Okay. Um, Let me unshare that really quick and get to the right screen. This is what happens when you restart monitors and everything else. There we go. So it'll basically be a change log. I have it right now set up like this, and this lists all the things that we did last week. And pretty much it'll be everything that we did. I don't think I can think of a single situation where it will be like this needs to be on the main. The only way an issue will ever jump from development to main will be like a hot fix if we encounter something that's like really drastic that needs to be cured quickly. We might push it that way, but basically all planned features and such like that will go through the dev channel first. And this is basically what we did last week, minus externals. And the externals last week, we played with BrainDrive model. We found a new model that we're particularly enjoying with BrainDrive, so we changed that complete setup over to that. Then that filters down to BrainDrive itself, and you'll see a few things. Let's see. We're Open Router. We switch over to Nimatron, and for anybody, if you have the hardware, we are using Ultra 3. It's a pretty good sized beast. However, if you can get it to run, so far it shows a lot of promise in what we want to do with the AI intelligence behind the
How
scenes.
difficult is it to switch to another model now? Because we basically switched from Anthropic's API to Open Router so we can choose from and switch between
Yep.
models, right? So now that
Yes.
we're hooked up to Open Router, if we wanted to change to another model from Nematron, how difficult is that?
It's as easy as when we did Haiku, but it's not as easy as I want it to be. And that's what I think I spoke about that last week when we were talking. It's like the next step to that is simply having it in the UI where we're using this model in Open Router, period. And if I already have the client done, where the client, instead of having it hard coded, we're using Nematron. What the client does now, it actually looks towards BrainDrive model. It
Yep.
says, what model are you using for the default? And it grabs that one and it uses that. With Open Router itself, I do have that hard coded right now as the Nematron being the default model. And that was just because we didn't have a conversation. Did we want to switch Open Router as well? Because if the situation arises where we get off Open Router for some wild reason, such as let's say we're hosting it ourselves, then we run into an issue if we're following hardcore along that line.
Is if because it's hard coded now, like isn't doesn't that just mean you have to switch the model name in a few different places or
Just one play. I have everything limited to one or none.
so if
And
you that doesn't sound very difficult then.
no, it isn't. No, it really isn't from the client side. It's even better than what it was before. It probably needs one more step when we figure out what we want to do with Open Router as far as a default model goes. And we could do, we have options, but
And
my
all the
goal was,
billing and stuff works or no?
yep, I was able to
Okay.
do everything. There was nothing out. I get an API key through the entire system, put it in, it worked.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And yeah, because my testing that I've been doing, Nemotron has some eccentricities around not following instructions well every time for some of the non like process, like for example, not showing the file names. It
yep,
seems to
yep,
be struggling with, which worries me because that's only like one of five instructions we have now, but
yeah.
we may have, we're gonna have a lot more in the future. But the new GLM model that
Mm.
everybody's raving about, which is
5.2.
supposed to be, Opus 4.8 level,
Yep, that I see that the numbers. I haven't used it to say, because we all know the
it's
numbers
not
and
having any
reality.
of those same problems. So, and I'm more and more of the mind now where there's going to be more of these open source models coming out, and
Yep,
we should just basically upgrade every time it's better. You
yep,
know what I mean? Um, so anyway, so that's something we can talk about, but
yeah.
I
It
do
really
think we,
isn't. Now that the hardest thing of the whole thing was really because I didn't develop the whole system, so it was my first time going through everything from one end to the other with something real. And so that probably just cost me time. And by
yeah,
time, probably, 3 hours, 4 hours. It was like, okay, making sure that when you go from one end of the system of brain drive model all the way to the other, in those kind of little things. When you like brain drive, I coded it. I don't have to think or like that. It's just okay, I go here. And now brain
right.
drive model, I'm really getting to that. That was fun to play with. enjoyed it. I see a few places where we can, of course, clean up and make it easier for the model switch, because I talked about that last week. This won't be the first time or the last time we do it. So
Right.
this needs to have to be, in my opinion, something where you could do it. You could wake up one day and go, "Oh my God, this is a great model. I used it." And you have the capabilities to go, "Okay, we're using this model in BrainDrive model now." And
As long as you can change it, I'm
yeah,
good.
I know,
So,
but it should be that simple where it's just you don't need a developer to change the model. That's this should be that simple.
okay.
This is
Yeah,
2026.
I agree, but since this is for maintainers of BrainDrive,
Yep.
you know what I mean, and not for Katie Carter, our
Yep.
non-technical persona. So I think we have a lot more wiggle room than we would
Yeah.
normally have.
But other than that, we seem to be dialing in. We have a few things, I believe. We have the to-do, we have journaling. We last week we worked on the BrainDrive builder. We were able to get all the way to the point where I could give it basically, hey, change this in BrainDrive, and it was able to go through the entire BrainDrive, make the changes, create the branch that it needed to create, pushed it, and then signaled to the testing harness that you have this to test. And it would give it, you're using Katie as the persona, you're doing a desktop type test environment, you're using WebKit so that you can test basically Safari a little bit and like that, those kind of things. But we can do any browser, we can do desktop, mobile, and tablet. It basically went through the entire orchestration line seamlessly and worked. This week will be giving it, we'll call it our specs, because our specs are larger than just change this. And so that it would be able to take the spec, break it down to milestone, do my stuff, break it down to milestones for me, work through the milestones, and then hand it off to testing. With human in the loop at different places for at the moment.
Okay, so let me just bring up the sequencing doc here.
Yep.
All right, so this is what we're working off of. We have a roadmap that's in the public repo. We're in phase two of that roadmap, which is building out all the benefit parts of BrainDrive. So far, we have our desktop and web access, the installers and everything,
Mhm.
and we have our BrainDrive models. That was up and running with one provider, and now Dave has made it with OpenRouter as well. Okay, so number one is our spec anchored V.1 test build and harness operating loop. So this is the build and test part of the BrainDrive factory.
Yep.
Where are we with this?
The test harness works as it was a week or 2 weeks ago. It's able to go through. We have three different versions of Katie's persona. We can have more if we want. It is able to go through each of the different projects plus its own project and do a complete interview, spec, build plan based on both models, because we use, I believe I use Codex for Katie's persona so that she can be a little smarter and she can just in case the personality. So we have that, and then we always use our default model for how BrainDrive is going to behave and act, and that works. It can be tweaked, of course, improved as more testing goes along, but the basic premises of the test harness does work. And output of that is three scorecards. One is for functionality, two is for UX, and then the model gets a grading as well. And the artifacts of that is a complete log of the conversation, various screenshots throughout the way, and an entire video. And those are all used to evaluate the UX, the functionality, and the model as well. So we capture almost like if you were looking over its shoulder in that moment. And the end goal of that, which I'm not there, is I want to develop a repo for those artifacts to always be stored so that we can track. And then eventually, looking down the road 6 months, if we get into fine tuning a BrainDrive actual model, we will have this information to build a data set and actually train the model from. We won't have to start from scratch, and we'll have real live data.
Nice. So
The
if we run this spec against what's built now, do you have a sense of what's done and what's not done?
I'd have to reread the spec. I drove 30 hours over the weekend,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to go from memory on this one right now.
Okay. So that would be an action item for this week
Yep,
is identifying what's in this spec, what's been done, and what's left to be done.
correct. What the spec was used through the entire development process. I just do not recall if there were any weak links in that.
Okay. And then the build harness is
The
we have a spec for that as well now.
Yep, we
That
have
just
a
needs to
spec.
be added.
We do have a spec for that. I would say we're probably 75% because we can't handling it as handing a spec yet. However, taking instructions, so we just have the first part of being able to give it a spec and it know what to do with. But once it has the information it needs to work on, it actually goes through the entire process of finding the issue, defining the issue, and then resolving the issue and then taking it from there because the spec will list where we want it to test on right now. We're not allowing the model or the system to decide that right now at this point in time. So the spec will say, hey, if this is a finance issue, or let's say we wanted to just use Katie, we want Katie to develop her own project because that's going to actually test what we fixed right here. And so that would be in the original spec of, hey, you're going to use Katie. It's going to be a desktop test. Let's say it was a mobile issue, use the mobile platform and do your own project. And that would carry on through the entire system so that when it was finished coding, it would hand off to the test harness with all of that information and says, here, this is what you're testing. And the reason we're doing that right now at this step is so that we ensure A, the test is what we want it to be from both we select when we're designing what we want to code, and then at the end, we're actually testing what we wanted to be done.
And
And
how long do you think it's going to take before that's where you want it to be?
we'll have to get the building thing working extremely well. So we'll need a few issues to clean up to actually push through to make sure, okay, you're doing what you want. Um, I don't know what it's going to take where I will feel confident that letting the AI decide how to test this because I have seen too many instances where the AI will take a lazy route. And the only way to ensure like certain things on testing is like, hey, when we're doing this spec, we go, this is what the test should be. And that
Right.
will be because eventually let the models get better, they hit a Codex 6 or Mythos comes along again you could get to the point where then we can start telling it saying this is what the user stories are. Develop the test for that,
Right. All
right?
right.
Without us
So
interfering.
for this week, I'd love to understand the whole map.
Yep,
So I have the planning side done and prioritization side like mapped out because I built that. And now I have the content production and promotion side built out because, so I understand that and can map it since I built that.
yep,
I want to map like these are the steps in the test process, these are the steps in the build
yep,
process. Here's what's done, here's what's left to be done. So we understand like the full start to finish BrainDrive factory. Even
yep,
if it's not working this
yep,
week, like just understanding what's there. Do you think
yep.
that's possible?
Oh, that's very possible this week. Completely.
Okay.
Because honestly, before we start pushing forward, that probably is the best first step. After me driving 30 hours, I need to get reacquainted anyways, just
Right.
because, hey, it's life.
Okay. So yeah, and I worked on the content. Uh, so we're gonna have our build in public content, which is gonna be really cool.
Mhm.
We already have like a great story of all the trials and tribulations that we've been through. And I think it's going to be an interesting story for people, but also like if you're building in the AI space, I think you can learn from our mistakes so
Yep,
you don't
yep.
make them. So I think, and I've been participating a little bit in some of the build in public Reddit
Mhm.
forums, and I think our story is like next level for that type of
Yep.
stuff. So I wrote like basically six posts. I created the factory for this. Then I wrote with the AI the six posts that
Mhm.
kind of bring us up to date. So we have like the history of all
Yep.
this and all of our stuff and how we're thinking about the business and blah 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 for the ride along. Really cool. That would have taken me at least a week before, and I did it in about 4 hours.
Oh,
So once the factory was done, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I really feel like it does. I have a pretty good AI writing sensor, and like this is like I do feel it feels very much now like I have a team of people that are working for
hmm
me, like writing this stuff, and I'm the editor, which is what I wanted to get to. And then I ran the first AI piece through the factory, which is a piece on local AI. That is written and also good. And now I'm going to the next phases, which is creating the assets for it, which it built a check, like you do it manually, but it's like a calculator where you put your computer specs in and it recommends a model.
yep.
So I think we're going to be able to have some pretty cool tools as a part of this content, which will be
hmm
good. And now the video, like getting all the assets set up for that and everything. So, I think we're both sort of at the point now where the factory we can start running stuff through it and
Yep.
improve it as we go along.
Yep. I I
Okay.
know for
Yeah,
coding side, we're like really have been taking a lot of leaps, maybe not in actual code, but fine tuning the system of me going through it by hand of taking the spec, then breaking that down into three parts where it needs to be so that only the information gets where it needs to be. And also I don't worry about what I call AI contamination to prevent it to get from late. You don't see the test until you're taking it type thing,
right.
those kind of things. But then also learning that the newer models prefer certain things. I notice it doesn't like it. You can give it like a phase, which is a normal coding term. You break it down to phases, but if you give it milestones, it treats it a little different and better. The results are much more fine tuned. So it's like the getting the human in the loop just perfects when you get down to getting the AI mostly in the loop. It's like you just follow the steps, almost like any automation system.
Cool. So yeah, so that's, we've been thinking a lot about this factory concept, and we've talked about this on calls, but I think I'm sort of formalizing this in my mind as what's happening is we're building knowledge factories, is a good way to think about it. And so I wanted to just do a brief, like 5 minutes on this. So, people understand how we're thinking about this and can give us feedback and tell us how they're thinking about it. But basically, AI is the new electricity. So electricity drove the Industrial Revolution. AI is driving the AI revolution. Electricity powered the physical factory. AI powers the knowledge factory. Electricity automates manual labor. AI automates cognitive labor. So there's a lot of parallels here, and I think it makes it really easy to sort of understand from a big picture perspective where this is all heading. And so, it used to be you had individual artisans that would forge, each product at one at a time.
Mhm.
And now we have sort of the knowledge worker equivalent where, we're working on one contract at a
Yep.
time or writing one line of code at a time. We're sort of the knowledge worker artisans. And just like happened with the Industrial Revolution, the electricity in the engine automated that manual labor and moved it into factories, physical factories. And AI is automating the cognitive labor and it's moving into knowledge factories. So that's what we're experiencing right now. And we're in the midst of this AI revolution. And it's actually really exciting. So, what that really means is, and how you can think about what's happening here, is you move from working on the thing itself, the sword, to working on the thing that makes the thing, which in this case was the physical factory in the case of the Industrial Revolution. In the case of the AI revolution, same thing. You move from working on the thing, the contract, the memo, the
Yep.
presentation, whatever that piece of knowledge work is, to working on the thing that makes the thing, the knowledge factory, the AI system that produces those things. So we're moving up a
Yep.
layer. And if you've been a manager, you're already kind of working at this level of abstraction. And so, you're just managing AI agents now instead of people. And so I really think this is exciting because everyone can become a manager. And people will say to me, like, well, not everyone can be a manager. And my response to that is, we used to all be hoeing in a field basically. And now you look at, the quality of even a basic job compared to the knowledge and the expertise that it takes compared to just hoeing in a field. And this to me is a much easier transition. And, most people, if they had their druthers, would like to be the boss, versus being bossed around. So I
You can do
think
the
this is going
hoeing
to
by
be
hand, or you can have a team of horses.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
where management even takes place there.
exactly. So, and another really cool thing about this is, unlike in the Industrial Revolution, you don't need a ton of capital to build a knowledge factory. In fact, anyone can build a knowledge factory. So this is like the most accessible technology, not only because it's ease of use, you just talk to it, and it can help you build that factory, but also it's really inexpensive and available to everyone. So, what is this knowledge factory and what differentiates one from another? It's the process that you're using. So, for BrainDrive, like we talked about earlier in this call, this is the process that we use to uh, plan and prioritize our work, to build and test that work, and to promote that work and create the content to promote that work. This is our process, and it is unique to our business. And that's what differentiates, our knowledge factory from someone else's. Same thing, your data. So, the data that we're generating as we go through this planning, prioritization, build, test. Dave was talking about creating a repo for all of this. Like, this is the knowledge and the data that is going to be very unique to our factory. Mostly, it's going to be very useful for our factory and probably not so useful for someone else's factory. So it's a major differentiator, right? And then your connections, the tools and the agents and the things that your factory connects to, whether those be external tools or tools you build yourself, et cetera. These are the three things that make up the factory. And where everybody's focused on the model and the model doing everything, the model is really the electricity. It's the most commoditized part of this process. And we see this now. We're switching between Claude and GPT and GLM and these different models in our factory. And you could even have different models powering different parts of the factory depending on, what's needed. But the most important part, if you want to succeed, is you want to be a factory owner. And so this is really at the heart of what we're trying to do with BrainDrive is you own your BrainDrive, which means you own your factory. You do not want to build your factory on a system that someone else owns because that's the factory and they own it. If you're building it on ChatGPT, guess who owns your factory and guess who's going to be the primary beneficiary of that factory? OpenAI is. So that's what we're trying to do with BrainDrive. And that's what you saw when I went through the different places. Let me just pop this up real quick where you can, and share again, where you can go into the settings and you can choose a wide variety of different models, a different electricity to power this brain drive, whether that be models that are running on your computer, whether that be one of the over 400 cloud-based AI models that run in OpenRouter, or whether it be the brain drive model that we're optimizing for both cost and performance for you. But everything in your factory, your processes, your documents, your files, they all live on your computer or the host of your choice and under your full ownership and control, meaning you own your factory with BrainDrive. And we're starting you off with the things that make you successful in your personal life because it's easy for anyone to understand how to work with AI to come up with a plan and come up with a line around goals for your career, create a plan for it, work with the AI on that. But once you have these things ironed out, in addition to having a great factory for your personal life, you can start working on business factories and building factories that
Yeah.
you can sell and monetize, et cetera, because you own your brain drive. So that's the future that we're moving towards. And it really does all come back to this process in terms of how you build your factory and how you build these process and that are unique to you. It's all around working with the AI to align around what you want to do, coming up with a plan for that, building it with the AI, testing it with the AI, taking those learnings and then looping back around. So that's the knowledge factory. And I think this is the future of knowledge work. And it's actually really exciting because we all have an opportunity to build and own these factories now. Where in the Industrial Revolution, that was really limited to a small number of very wealthy people or people that could raise tons of capital. You don't have to do that for a knowledge factory. So that's me trying to dial in that factory analogy.
It works though, and one of your slides is almost proved the whole point of why it's important to own it is because OpenAI, ChatGPT, they introduced the custom GPTs. People made businesses off them. They created knowledge factories basically before the word existed, and now OpenAI has decided they're going away. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? It's like that's what happens when you let big tech
And you couldn't
take control.
monetize those before. And if you could monetize them, then they would have probably made a bunch of rules and taken the majority of the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's almost like the glowing point right there is, it's like, hey, if you don't own it, they can do whatever they want with it and to you with it. It's like they
Yep.
just took it away.
Yep. All right, great. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
Nope, I'm pretty good. I think we're probably going to hammer on the builder, get that up to par, and I believe we have, if we get far enough along that, the to do and the journaling, and then I think we might be talking about switching a model again. Which, hey, that'll be fun because that gets me in BrainDrive model again. Because it's like, hey, I like that system. It just we could do few little things to make it, as time permits,
Yep.
to get a little smoother.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is getting the build and test harness so we can dial in these pages and getting the model that, so we're aligned around that. In between to-do list and task follow-up is if we have model evaluation where it's easy that we
Yep.
could have a score for these models, et cetera. I just want to get that on paper basically so
Yep.
we can start using that for content, et cetera. If that's going to take a lot of work, I'd rather just skip over it and do the to-do list and the task, the journaling
Yep.
rather. And yeah, we'll keep moving through. And with that, we'll call it there. Like I said, we do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time and post the recordings over on our community forums at community.braindrive.ai. So we'd love it if you participate here live on the YouTube call or over at our community at community.braindrive.ai. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech